Everybody for joining us tonight. This is Huston Lake Park Public Meeting number 2. We're so happy to have you all here tonight. First off, our team would really like to extend our thanks to current council office of Joel and Clark. They've always been a big park supporter, and we want to thank you so much. Additionally, we'd also like to recognize Council Member-elect Flor Alvidrez. We know this park is really important to her. This is the neighborhood she grew up in, and we're so excited to, share our ideas with you all tonight. So that being said, I would like to introduce our Spanish interpreter, B. Torres. B, take it away.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is B. Torres. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'll be your Spanish interpreter with the Community Language Cooperative. I want to thank you all for your commitment to language justice. Language justice means that everyone should have the right to speak and be heard in the language of their hearts. Therefore, I'll be providing simultaneous interpretation in English and Spanish. I'll repeat these instructions in Spanish, and then we will activate the interpretation function. At that time, at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a globe icon that says interpretation. You'll click on that icon and select either English or Spanish as the language of your heart. Please remember to speak at a conversational pace so that I'm able to provide an accurate rendition of your message. Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Vi Torres, mi pronombre es ella y yo seré su intérprete con la Cooperativa Comunitaria de Lenguaje. Y les agradezco su compromiso a la justicia del lenguaje, lo cual significa que todas las personas tenemos el derecho de hablar y ser escuchadas en el idioma de nuestro corazón. En un momento activaremos la función de interpretación y aparecerá un globo terráqueo en la parte inferior de su pantalla de Zoom. Favor de hacer clic en ese icono y elija inglés o español como el idioma de su corazón. Les recuerdo que hablen a un ritmo de conversación para poder brindar una interpretación precisa de su mensaje. Muchas gracias, ya comenzaremos. Thank you very much. We can activate interpretation now.
Shelby, should I go?
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone, I would like to introduce you to Chad Hurd with the Matrix Design Team, and he is going to kick us off. Thank you, Chad.
Yes, welcome everybody. It's glad to see everybody out here. I'm going to run through the Zoom meeting instructions that are on the screen here. This is a live public meeting. This meeting is being recorded. Recording will be posted to www.denver.gov.org, denvergov.org parks projects, and I believe that link is in the chat as well. For live Spanish interpretation, please switch to the Spanish interpretation Zoom channel. Please hold any verbal questions until the end of the presentation during the question and answer session. If you can do that, that'll help things go a little bit more smoothly. And chat instructions. Use the chat for questions, comments, feedback at any time during the meeting. Click on the screen to make a control bar appear. Click on participants, and at the bottom of the list, click chat and type your message, and then tap send. And that'll be it. All right, we go to the next. So our team here, we've been working with Denver Parks and Rec. We've been working a lot with Craig Coronado, Denver Parks and Rec sort of leader, and Shelby Batala, who is our project manager and leader of this team. And also Anna Claudia has been involved. Well, I don't believe she's on the call this evening. For Matrix Design Group, I'm Chad Hurd, and I'm a landscape architect. And Joey Perez is one of our senior landscape architects who's been leading the design and is the project manager from the Matrix side of the group. And I would like to pass the torch on to Joey at this time.
Thanks, Chad, and thank you, Shelby. And thanks for everybody for attending today's open house meeting number 2 for Huston Lake Park. So in today's meeting, I'm going to be, we talked about the introduction of the team, and then we're going to be going through some of the survey results that were pulled after the first meeting. Then we'll be looking at two options for playground equipment, colors, and playground surfacing. And then we have a few questions that we would like to poll the audience on. So we'll have a live poll that everyone can participate in. Then we'll be talking about the next steps overall for the project. And then at the end of the meeting, we'll have a chance to hear back from you for a question and answer session. So as Chad said, please hold any verbal questions towards the end of the meeting. If you do have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Shelby Batala is going to be monitoring the chat, and she will chime in with your questions if it's appropriate at that time. Then once we present each concept, we'll have a quick 5-minute session where you can raise any questions you might have about that concept. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and proceed and talk about some of the survey results and the community feedback that we got back from you. So we had about 10 or actually 11 questions, I guess, on the survey. One of the first ones was we wanted to gauge how often visitors attend Huston Lake Park and the playground. Overall in the survey, we had a lot of participants. I believe it was just under 100 and I think it was about 138, just under 140 people participated in the survey, which is amazing. We got a lot of great poll results, and then we saw a lot of great comments that we're hoping to show you that we incorporated into these designs. And so for this first one, how often do you visit the Huston Lake Park playground? We had 128 people answer this question, which is great. 50% of those people polled said they visited the playground daily, which is pretty amazing. So a lot of great users in this area. Looking at question number 2, we wanted to understand what playgrounds do you visit? What's another park playground that you visit? So we put this we amalgamated all the data that we got, all the parks that people listed, and put this into a word cloud. 2 of the most popular parks that we saw was Wash Park, or Washington is what people had typed in. And then the second most popular one is Paco Sanchez Park. So those were the 2 that we saw a lot of feedback on that other people like to visit. So we took a look at some of those parks and tried to incorporate some of the elements that we saw there. Question number 3. We wanted to understand the play groups that attend the park. So to gain a better understanding of age-appropriate playground equipment, what is the age of the playground users in your household? We had about 104 people respond to this, and nearly 53% was 5 and under. So this kind of helped us determine some of the play equipment and tailor the design to that answer. Question 4, what is the playground user's favorite play element at the Huston Lake Park playground? This one, about 105 people answered this question, and about 64% was the play platform was the most used play element, the existing play elements. We did receive some other comments, so you can see here that people had requested tire swings and monkey bars, different elements as you can see here. Question number 5 was, which theme would you like to see for the Huston Lake Park playground? And this is one of the more important questions, as it helped us determine which direction to go in. So for this one, about 125 people actually answered this question, but there is about 62% of the people that answered stated nature-inspired play was the theme that they would like to see. This slide was presented to the public as part of the survey questions, and I'm showing this again to you just to show what the nature-inspired play looked like when we presented it to public, and what that 64% had chosen direction to go in. So you can see there's on the top left here, there's various different climbing elements that's more appropriate for a younger crowd, like 2 to 5 years old. Offering different various degrees of challenge. On the right here, you can see the large tower overlooking the lake. This was very fitting for Huston Lake Park, so we wanted to incorporate that large tower in our design. Expanded swing sets is another element that we looked at, and then also introducing kind of rock climbing or kind of bouldering elements that you can see kind of on the lower left here, on the top right, and then again on the bottom right image with some thoughts about mushroom steppers. Really fun play elements that are nature-inspired play. This question, we asked a couple different questions here, and people were kind of rating them from 1 to 5 if they agreed or disagreed. So one was, are there enough public benches to use while visiting the playground in Huston Lake Park? There's a couple comments that were received that more seating was desired in the proposed playground. And then shade was, we wanted to poll if people thought there was enough shade in the existing playground. You can see there's some more comments that we received that are not shown here, but a lot of people were concerned with shade and wanting more shade. These next 4 questions kind of dealt with the basketball court. What we heard from the community was that right now there's kind of, with the way the basketball court or where it's located and its adjacency to the playground and the trail, we heard feedback that there's a lot of conflicts between people using the trail in the basketball court, people who are using the basketball court and the ball is rolling towards the lake, or it's rolling towards the playground. So it's like disrupting a lot of play. So we asked the question, would you use the basketball court more often if it was expanded to include, and we offered these ideas, areas for, or I'm sorry, 3-hoop basketball area, regulation full-size court, or like a multi-use flexible space. And 53% of the people polled said they would like to see it as a multi-use flexible space in addition to like a basketball court. Again, this one is related to the basketball court. Would you use the basketball court more often if we're in another location in the park? So the polls suggested no, people would not use it more if it was relocated. But what we did see is that in the comments, that those conflicts that I just mentioned, they came up a lot in this question. So for the first one, for example, right now it's in the middle of the walking path around the lake, which makes it very hard to actually use. So further from the lake, loose balls roll towards the lake right now. So we heard a lot of those comments and we started looking at, should we separate the basketball court or how can we resolve these conflicts that are happening? So in the upcoming concepts that I'm going to show, you'll see how we kind of approach that. This one, would you use the basketball court more often if the existing court were repurposed, restriped for another type of sport or activity? And in this, it was split. There was about 112 people that answered, and it was 50-50. But again, the comments told us something different. So for example, this one, my kids bike on it, so I like that it's next to the playground. So we have a basketball court currently, but then there's also kids that want to bike on it. So that you're starting to see kind of conflicts between the playground, playground users and basketball users, trail users, for example. This one was just gauging whether people would like to see the basketball court to be removed and the space utilized for a different purpose entirely. So this one is no. A lot of people didn't want the basketball court removed entirely. But what we're seeing in the comments is, let's keep the basketball court, or let's not remove the basketball court. Let's keep it, but how can we use it in conjunction with all the different uses surrounding it? And this last question was just open questions for any comments that people had. We received a ton of comments, some related to the playground and then some just related to the park as a whole. Here's just a few examples of some of the comments that were received. For example, more structures to climb on. My favorite playgrounds are ones with innovative climbing structures. So that's something we really took to heart. More benches is what we heard from a lot of people. Obviously needs a new playground, and I guess new playground equipment, I guess that might be. So we took a look at all the comments and we really tried to incorporate as much as we could, and yeah, to the best of our abilities. So these next slides, I'm going to start presenting the first and then second concept. So this first concept is the playground equipment, and we self-titled it the Adventure Climber. And I'll get into a little bit more detail into terms of this, but for this concept, we looked at reshaping the playground and expanding kind of the footprint for the playground area. Also, the circulation pattern, we adjusted, one, to accommodate a larger footprint for the playground, and also to help with ease of maintenance vehicles who are navigating this path here. And then we also took the opportunity to kind of create more seating areas. So kind of flanking on the south side or the lower portion of this page. And on the top side, we created 2 different picnic areas that may have like 2 or 3 picnic benches and tables. Also looking at incorporating more benches kind of surrounding the playground as well. So in this concept, we wanted to take a look at how can we really encapsulate the playground and make it kind of a safer space for the users. So some of these things that I just mentioned, we expanded this and simplified the existing playground area footprint. The age groups are placed in the same playground footprint, but they're separated spatially. And then we proposed new play equipment that you'll be seeing in more detail in the next slide. Again, as I mentioned, we looked at simplifying the circulation through the play area, and then looking at adjusting some of the planting. So currently, the playground exists kind of on the right side, but it's directly abutted towards the athletic fields. So one of the things that the design team wanted to do is kind of like hug the playground and create a barrier between the athletic fields and the play equipment. So we're looking at maintaining the existing trees, converting some of the existing turf to kind of a natural, little bit more wild planting, and then adding picnic areas and more bench seating adjacent to the playground. I mentioned the basketball court was kind of a hot topic in the survey. So one design approach that we're taking is removing the basketball court the basketball hoop directly adjacent to the playground, keeping the one that's a little bit further away to the north of the playground, and using that as just kind of a half court or kind of a free throw point line. So this way it might eliminate balls from rolling into the playground or other users that might be in this space. And then we're also taking a look at how can we repurpose this area where one of the poles were. And in this first concept, we're looking at restriping the area so that for this one, it'd be more game area, such as Foursquare or Hopscotch. But this area also can act as a flex space so that if there's large classes, for example, Zumba or yoga, they could use this designated flex space, but still allow people to shoot basketball hoops without any conflict in these areas. This next slide is just looking at a little bit more detail about the play equipment. So we have 5 to 12-year-old play equipment, 2 to 5-year-old play equipment, revised swing sets, and then we also have some freestanding play equipment that's going to be offered in this first concept. The large tower for the 5 to 12-year-olds, it's a 12-foot tower, does offer kind of a large and enclosed twisty slide. And then I'll show you on the next one, but attached to this play structure is some kind of adventurescape rock climbing equipment that's just a little bit more challenging for 5 to 12-year-olds and really fun. For the 2 to 5-year-olds, we have some things called Fox Den Hangouts. Those are kind of a swinging fun, or you can have multiple kids sitting in this space, which is located right here. We have an area called the Foxtrot Multi-Climber is what it's called. This offers kind of a variety of stepping paths, rope climbing elements, rope bridges, and on this side, kind of a panel for like traversing different areas. And then we have also this kind of swinging fun play element, and this is all geared for 2 to 5-year-olds. Also geared for 2 to 5-year-olds is this freestanding play equipment, which is like a rock climbing element. So that way they have something that is similar, that's for something similar to the larger play group. And then the swing set, we have our belt swings, and then also kind of a companion seating area, a companion swing, which is kind of allows for 2 people to sit together. And this is great for either parents and a child or kids with different abilities who might need a little bit more supervision. So this is just this next slide is taking a look at, again, kind of the things I just stated. But for the 5 to 12-year-old equipment, I mentioned the AdventureScape Climber. So this includes some netting for climbing, this rock sculpture that allow kids to climb up and then transfer over to the larger structure. And these elements are kind of found throughout and around the play element, and also some little like mushroom steppers. So it offers a variety of different challenging elements, climbing, and then of course the play structure itself. This one is just taking a look at the 2 to 5-year-old play equipment and a lot of the things I just mentioned. So the climber, and then here's some of the other names that you can see that are provided by the vendor for the play equipment. Some of the inclusive play equipment that we're including is this element right here, which is called the We Go Round Spinner. So this is a spinning element that has seating, has seats included within it, but also has space for wheelchair access. So someone who is in a wheelchair does not have to transfer out of that wheelchair to enjoy this. This will be flush with the surface of the adjacent surfacing, and they could wheel right in and then experience this equipment just with everybody else. More elements that include inclusive play are some of the 2 to 5-year-old play equipment. This Fox Den Hangout, or these swinging elements, allows for someone to approach it and then transfer into these elements from their wheelchair. And then in this scheme, the other things to mention is just a 2-bay swing set. So we have these 2 bays here, the belt swings and then the kind of the molded seat and harness. And this is going to be just a key difference for the next option. At this point though, for about 5 minutes or so, I'd like to open up to the community. If you have any questions or comments kind of specific to this first adventure climber, please raise your hand and then you'll be called upon. You can verbally ask your question, or you can place your question in the chat and Shelby can read it out for us. But at this time, feel free to ask any questions or make any comments for the next 5 minutes or so, and then we'll present the next option.
Thanks, Joey. Yeah, we have a question from Maria Lopez. Actually, it's a series of questions. Would you like me to read each one and then answer it, or what's your preference?
Yeah, I think we could read each one, and
Answer
if
it.
you know the answer, go for it. If not, I can answer.
Okay, we'll start there. First question is there a shading option for the playground? Hoping we can have access even if it is a hot day.
So right now we have a lot of mature trees that are adjacent to the playground. So we're hoping to maintain those and utilize it, and then place kind of the bench and seating structures adjacent to those. And the other thing is the large 5 to 12-year-old play equipment does include 2-tier play structure and a roof. So that will act as a shading element. But at this time, those are about kind of our responses to the shade question.
The next question is there a water fountain for the playground? No, there's an existing water fountain adjacent to
isn't-
the playground.
Yeah, and it looks like it's not shown here, but it's called out, but there is an existing water fountain just north of the playground.
I'll check and make sure that's operational. And then finally, are we discussing only the current playground area? Yes, this is playground area specific, these concepts. Okay, thank you, Casey. The water fountain does not work. Okay, I will work with the operations team and figure out what we can do regarding the water fountain.
Thanks, Shelby. Is there any other, I don't see any raised hands or any other comments? Okay. All right, thanks everybody. And thanks Maria for your questions and comments. We'll definitely take those into consideration. Oh, one more here. This was just taking a look at some of the play equipment, but we're contextualizing it into the playground scheme. So these are just a few renderings of what the playground could look like adjacent to the entire concept as a whole. Again, so the 5 to 12-year-old play equipment on the top left here. We're looking at the 2 to 5-year-old play equipment adjacent to this native seating area across the path. And then also taking a look at, the swing sets with the surfacing options. So for this first concept, we're looking at a poured in place surfacing, which is kind of like a rubber material that's able to be kind of laid out in various patterns. For this first concept, we're looking at maybe a 3-color option and filling the whole space with the poured in place option. And then on the bottom right here, we're taking a look at the flex space slash basketball court and what that might look like. So again, pushing the basketball hoop or not pushing, but maintaining the existing basketball hoop that's to the north of the playground and leaving kind of that half court and free throw striping, but then repurposing the south side of that basketball court to with hopscotch and 4-square striped areas, but then also doubling as kind of a flex space for Zumba classes, yoga classes, or all the people that kind of meet in this community, give them an area for them to use. And then at this time, I'm going to go ahead and present the second option for this. So we wanted to keep a lot of the structures because we thought we really enjoyed what we had here, including like the 12-foot tower, the swing sets, and then kind of the 2 to 5-year-old multi-climber area. But a couple things that are to note are, one, we're adding an additional bay of swing sets to this concept, looking at modifying the types of slides. So some things that we heard is that fully enclosed slides might maybe get a little hot in the summer. So we wanted to take a look at an option of doing an open air slide. You would have 2 of them, but some things that you're losing is kind of like the twist or the cork in the slides. And then some other things to note is that we'll be losing some of the climbing structures that are adjacent to the 5 to 12-year-old tower. But as you can see, we wanted to get the community feedback on an alternative color scheme for both the equipment and kind of the play surfacing, and also alternative materials for the play surfacing. So for this, we're maintaining the concept that was previously described, but the play equipment within the play zone has been modified slightly. And then we're also looking at restriping the south kind of flex play area to a bicycle like circuit track. Because in the comments that we got in the survey, there's a lot of kids that already use this space for kind of like bicycling or riding around, rollerblading, or skateboarding. So we wanted to take that into consideration and see if we can incorporate some different fun elements adjacent to the playground. So at this one, again, we're maintaining the 5 to 12-year-old tower, adjusting the slides, and using different panel options for the surrounding tower. We're keeping the inclusive play equipment like the We Go Round, expanding the swing set with additional bay. This swing set is, or this expansion of the swing set is going to include like a molded seat with harness. And this would be sized for 2 to 5-year-olds. So that way you have kind of a designated harness seat for 2 to 5-year-olds. Then you would have your companion seating in the middle, and then your kind of typical belt swings on the right side there. So this is just looking at the play equipment in a little bit more detail. So for the 5 to 12-year-old play equipment, you do have kind of like this log stack climber, which is going to be really fun and challenging for kids getting up to the tower. And then we have some different panel options, kind of like tubing for kids to climb through. Different ways to lead up is kind of this rope bridge structure. And then the slides are open air and less twisty, I guess. So it's a little bit different style of slides. For the 2 to 5-year-old play equipment, we're maintaining what was shown previously, just with an alternative color scheme. The configuration is just slightly different in terms of its orientation. The inclusive play equipment I've mentioned before, we're maintaining that We Go Around spinner because it has a lot of play value for children with all types of abilities. And then the swing set I mentioned, just expanding that with the third bay, the molded seats with the harness. And then this is just taking a look at the play equipment, again, contextualized with the surrounding play scheme. So here you can see kind of the 5 to 12-year-old play equipment, all the different challenging elements that it has to offer. Again, down here on the bottom left, the swing set is expanded to be 3 bays. And we're looking at an alternative material in this area rather than that poured in place rubber material. We're looking at doing kind of like a wood mulch material that's existing and that's there at the existing playground. And one thing to mention for the 2 to 5-year-old play equipment is the alternative play surfacing in that area. We're looking at artificial turf. So we have kind of 3 options for this scheme. We'll have the larger 5 to 12-year-old will have a poured in place rubber material. The 2 to 5-year-old play equipment will be in an artificial turf. And then the swings would be in a wood mulch type of material. Excuse me. And that would just be in response to kind of different uses. So like, for example, the swing sets, if we were to do a pour in place material, sometimes that material can get scuffed up and worn out for repeated use. So that's why we're looking at the wood mulch in this area. And then on the bottom right, we're looking at kind of the flex space in basketball. And this would be kind of just a painted track that will kind of allow kids to zoom around on their bicycles or skateboards or rollerblades or whatever it might be, and allow their imagination to take over, and they can kind of use this space as they please, still maintaining that half-court basketball. And again, the bicycle track space would be also doubling as that flex space for kind of large group classes. So at this time, that's the second option. Again, I'd like to open it up for kind of like 5 minutes for any questions or comments. Feel free to raise your hand or place any comments or questions you have in the chat, and then Shelby will read those out.
Maria, feel free to unmute yourself with your hand up.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to maybe discuss shade a little more. Those trees, it's really hot there. Those trees don't really provide a lot of shade. And I think it's so beautiful. First off, let me just say that I think this is amazing. And even without the shade, it's going to be great, but it gets hot really quick. And for moms who are taking their kids over there for a day, every day, you know, you got to go really early and then come back home, and you can't really do it in the afternoon. So I just would hope maybe eventually maybe shade could be added a little more because the heat is just really hot.
Yeah, thank you, Maria. I definitely hear you there, and we'll take that into consideration and look at some alternatives when we start moving forward and progressing the design.
Thank you.
Yeah, we hear you.
Maria, I will add, although Shelby and some of the engineers might be a little more familiar. One of the problems with adding shade places, which is something we hear quite often when we're doing a playground, is during the winter months, that shade it also blocks the sun. So for a lot of months, the playground may not be able to be used because there might be ice buildup or snow, things that usually our crews will not go and shovel these type of spaces. And so that type of shading also on the flip side for several months can cause issues for use of the playground.
Well, thank you for that. I understand that challenge. I just would hope that we could think of a solution where that triangular shade thing that could be a shade option could be hooked and unhooked. I mean, I throw parties for a living, so we, create cities outdoors, and oftentimes you have to put shade up and then think of really quick ways to take it down. But I do think if we're going to build something this beautiful, it would be really great to maximize, how often we can utilize it as a community.
Absolutely. I'll work with the operations team and see if we can come up with a solution for adding more shade.
Another option might be to potentially add some shade where we're showing the picnic tables, not necessarily over the playground, but in that adjacent area where parents are probably sitting. And I think that's something that we have kicked around a little bit. So that might be another thought, just to have a respite. It could also be a place where if there's a hailstorm or something, people can run under and take cover. So it's kind of a nice, if it's a more permanent structure, but that those things are expensive. So I think we'll have to see how that works with the overall budget. So. But
yeah,
anyway.
no, I understand that. And thank you guys. This is really thoughtful. Just first off, this is just awesome. So it'll be a really huge improvement. And obviously we just are shooting for the stars because, we want shade.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thank you. Shelby, is there any more comments in the chat or?
Casey just agrees that more shade is needed. It gets very hot for little kids. So yes, we will. And Casey, please jump on in. I see your hands up. So if you have to add, please jump in.
Yeah, agree with Maria. This is awesome. I'm super excited about it. I really like the area to ride bikes for little kids. Wondering if some elements could be added to it to create some little bumps or dips or something to just make it more interesting than just a flat space.
Yeah, I mean, we again, we'll take a look at incorporating some of those elements and what we can do. I totally agree. I think that'd be, a lot of people mentioned Wash Park in the survey comments, and the Wash Park, I think they had a track that was like that. So would love to incorporate something like that, but we'll just have to take into consideration, the playground as a whole, the budget, and then, safety, of course, adjacent to the trail. And so I hear you, and we'll take a look at that.
Yes, absolutely. Are people leaning, I guess, start thinking about which concept you're leaning towards? That'll come up later.
Yeah. Yeah. And you might like some elements from a concept and colors and everything. So again, at the end, when we have a question and answers, feel free to express those thoughts, and we'll take it into consideration. Your feedback has been tremendous in the survey, and it's really been helpful in shaping kind of the concept here. So this slide, I just, again, kind of wanted to reiterate that basketball and flex space option. And we wanted to get kind of the community's feedback on what you would like to see. is the painted bicycle track a way you want to proceed, or is kind of the Foursquare and hopscotch option another direction that we want to go with? And there's even a third option, which we'll present in the live poll. But that third option is just maybe keeping both basketball hoops, but maybe restriping or even having maybe a mural placed in the basketball court floor. That way it kind of allows that multi-use flex space for large groups or classes. So you still allow people to shoot hoops, but it's not such a strict basketball zone. So that's kind of a third option. So that's another thing to think about once we get to the live poll. And that's what's next.
Joey, couldn't you take a step back? I just want to build on Casey in which she asked in some of the elements. Would the painting that you're showing be able to be done if there were bumps or additional curvatures on it, or is the painting really only for something that's a flat surface? So if you go down one, what you'd be showing for the bike riding?
I think it'd be a kind of a combination. If we are able to add kind of like bumps or different challenges, I have seen vendors that provide just kind of ready set pieces that you can connect. So you would still have kind of your painted and striped areas, and then that would be leading to whatever challenging element that would be.
Okay.
So you could incorporate both, I guess.
Okay. And I just wanted to, it sounded like Casey liked some of the elements, but I didn't know if it was an either or, if you had to explore some of the more challenges, if some of the painting had to be removed.
One thing that's nice about the painted area, especially if you look at the lower left, is there's an opportunity for kind of interpretive, showing kids, teaching them where you should stop if you're on a street and you're biking, or what you should do when you come to an intersection. So it's fun, but there's also kind of a learning element to this, which is kind of cool. So.
Yeah, the two images on the left are examples from a playground design. I think it's in Portland, Oregon. And the purpose for this area is to teach kids like safe biking, while they're kids and getting older. But that education will go a long way when they become drivers in the future, right? If you learn how to become a responsible biker and respect cyclists now as a kid, when you're driving, when you're older, hopefully you have that same respect. I don't know if anyone's biked around the city streets here in Denver, but you could see some people didn't learn that. So I think it'd be good to have this element here and just kind of teach kids safe cycling and then eventually safe driving. So
great.
Maria, did I see your hand up?
Yeah, I did have a question. I think it was it John who had the question about the bike riding one, and Casey commented about like maybe make it more interactive with some bumps and stuff. Would that affect the idea of multi-use, or could the bumps or something be put somewhere else? Because I really like the idea of being able to do yoga and also Zumba classes or exercise classes out there, or when I see people really early in the morning out there like me, it'd be great to be able to use that. So I'm just wondering if that would impact that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And we would have to definitely define sort of an area for if we were doing some of those elements. I think that was one thing in the survey that really popped out, was that having the flex space was really a popular idea. So I think having a space that multitude of people can use at different times is a very positive thing. So.
Okay. If there's no more questions or comments, we can move on to the live poll. And Jesus,
sorry,
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I just am kind of curious as to how many residents are here if we're taking a live poll. I'm just a little, This is a lot of responsibility to vote if there's only a few of us on here. I'm just wondering how the data is going to play out. And I just also wanted to say, I don't think attendance is a reflection of how much we care about the park. I know there's another meeting happening right now. It's a summer party kickoff with the Athmar Association. So I think a lot of folks are actually at the park. So I was just kind of wondering about that.
Yeah, again, so yeah, this, or not again, but this live poll isn't a complete representation like you stated. Not everyone is here. What we did was in the past for the first meeting is we incorporated these live poll questions into an overall survey. And then that survey was posted online. And then I went ahead and put little signs at the park so people could just scan it with the QR code and take the survey. And that's how we got such a huge response from the community. So I think we'll be taking that approach at this time. So don't feel any pressure that the way you vote today is the strict way that we're moving. We'll present these questions today, and then I'll put together a survey, and then we can poll the general community, and then that's going to help drive our decisions again. So yeah, no pressure, everybody. It's okay. Vote. Okay. And Jesus, are we okay to go with the live poll?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm
The-
just gonna go ahead.
Just a couple things. When we launched the poll, the examples, I will let Joey go through the examples at first. If you're on a phone or a tablet, the poll itself may take the entire screen. So just be conscious of that. That way you're remembering what your options are as you're looking through them.
Yeah. And then if you are on a computer, sometimes this pop-up window might have to be expanded to kind of read the full question or even the Spanish translation that's on the question. So if you don't see everything, I think on the bottom right, you can expand the box. But just a few quick instructions as we take this, the live poll will pop up and appear on screen as you see here. Please select an answer based on your preferences. Results will be shown within 30 seconds of the question being shown. And this poll results will help the project team in the design process. But again, we'll release a survey and make the community aware of that survey. And with the larger community feedback, we'll take all those thoughts and into consideration and kind of help drive this. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and proceed with the first question. So this is question number 1. Which play equipment layout do you prefer? And please select one. Do you prefer the adventure climber on the left with this kind of color scheme? Or do you prefer the swing and sway on the right with this color scheme? And if you have a mix and match, just kind of vote for your favorite play equipment for now, and then we can take other thoughts into consideration in questions or chat. Then in a few seconds here, we'll pop up with the results.
Okay, so I'm ending the poll. And sharing the results. Looks like it was a tight race.
50-50, okay. All right, thanks everyone for sharing. It looks like we're pretty split, and it'd be interesting to get everyone's feedback on what they like or don't like. So we'll get all that feedback here in a minute. All right. All right, question number 2. Which basketball court / flex space layout do you prefer? Please select one. The half court basketball and painted bicycle track, the half court basketball and painted 4-square hopscotch zone, or keep the 2 hoops and then maybe add like a mural in the center of the basketball court. That way it still designates it as a flex space, so it's not completely dominated by basketball. But please go ahead, and the poll question is going to pop up on your screen, and please vote for your preference.
All right, I will be closing this poll. This one's not as close.
All right, nice. Okay, that's good feedback. That's my favorite as well. So it looks like 100% of the people are leaning towards kind of the half basketball court and the cycle track for kids, which is great. It's just going to be fun looking into how we can really make that a really fun space in the design. Okay, third question, and I believe this is the last question, but we wanted to get your thoughts on kind of the playground surfacing and the materials. So on the left here, I have the pour in place surface, which is via all poured in place rubber surface throughout the whole area. Or on the right here, we're looking at a mixed material surface, and just kind of strategically placing the material where it makes sense per the use type. So it'd be a pour in place rubber surface, artificial turf, and then, I'm sorry, poured in place artificial turf, and then EWF, or kind of the wood mulch material, which is what's out there currently. So which playground surface type do you prefer? Please select one, pour in place rubber or the mixed material.
Okay, I'm going to close this poll and share the results.
Oh wow, it looks like 60% was for the mixed materials surfacing, which is great. Let me take a snippet of that. All right, great. Thanks everybody for participating. I believe that's the last question for the quick poll. Again, we'll make an online survey that might have some additional questions, including the ones that you saw here today. And then we'll make the community aware. I think, again, most successful way was kind of posting the QR codes out into the park. That way you can easily just scan it when you're visiting there and take the poll. So keep an eye out for that. We'll probably have that the next week or so. And then at this time, I just wanted to talk about next steps for the project as a whole. So currently we are here, community meeting number 2. We're wrapping up the kind of public outreach portion and the playground design, like the concept design. And with your community feedback, we're going to be moving into the next steps, which is just kind of construction documentation, getting more accurate pricing information, and kind of finalizing the design. So we have, again, playground design, which is spring in 2023. The walkway construction, which I'll let Shelby give an update on, that looks like it is kind of on track for summer of 2023. And then
Yes. I'll just jump in real quick.
Yeah,
on
go ahead,
this
Shelby.
topic. So yes, the asphalt walkway trail replacement project is kicking off. We are beginning to talk to a variety of different contractors and receive pricing, and we don't have a notice to proceed date yet, but we will keep you posted. But that is in progress right now.
Thank you, Shelby. And then just in terms of the rest of the project, the playground, we're looking at construction hopefully by spring 2024, and then project completion of fall 2024. And then at this time, I'd like to open it up to the public for any questions or comments. Just a few things. Again, this is a live public meeting, so this meeting is being recorded. Please select the raise hand icon in order to be selected to ask questions. Please feel free to use the chat if you don't want to get on video and ask your question. You can use the chat for questions or comments and feedback at any time. And then here's kind of the instructions. Click on the screen to make the control bar to appear. Click on participants. And at the bottom of the list, click chat and type your message and tap send. So Shelby will be monitoring the chat. And if anyone, just please raise your hand and then we can call on you and ask your question or make your comment.
I think Maria had her hand up first. Oh, go ahead, Maria.
Yeah, I'm kind of jumping in late. I did take the survey and I agree. It was great to see the scan code there. I was just wondering, I didn't realize that it's going to be closed next summer. So basically the park and the playground, is that going to be closed all summer then until the project's completed?
Yeah, I don't know about all summer. When are we looking at? Spring 2024. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so that's what I thought, and I was just wondering, have we discussed or have we thought about, like maybe being able to have other, like something else going on in the park that kids could go to and mess around at, even if it's not like the playground area, like the grass area or something like that?
The field will be open for sure, and by that time the walks will be replaced. I can speak to the team internally and see if they have any suggestions that we can share on, alternate play option areas for the community during that build. It's a good point.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Any other questions or concerns at this time? Any comments on, a particular type of play equipment that you really liked or really want to see? Please, post it in the chat or let us know. That goes for color scheme too. There's a particular.
Yeah, even the color scheme. Yeah, you might like one type of play equipment that was presented, but maybe the color of the other. So yeah, feel free to let us know. Or
Thank you, Maria. Yeah, there's a lot of inclusive play on both options.
And I'm trying not to comment too much.
No, please do.
no, feel
that's-
free. Yeah, feel free. This is what
we
it's for.
want to hear from you.
I'm kind of embarrassed because it's going to be recorded publicly, but I do want to just say again, this is awesome. Thank you guys for prioritizing this playground, something to be proud of. And I really, the only other thing I wanted to say is I like more colors. So whatever option gets chosen, if it could be colorful, that'd be great.
Definitely. Thank you for that. That helps us out a lot, and
Yeah.
all of your feedback helps us out a lot. There aren't any wrong comments. That this is a process that is
Looks like
important.
Parrish made a comment as well. Says I like the swing in the second, but the color scheme in the first, plus the mushroom steps. So
Great comment. Yep.
thank you.
Yes, thank you. That helps us.
Mhm.
Cool.
Well, unless someone has any last minute comments, we'd like to thank you again for joining us. Hopefully we didn't have a conflict with any other event. It seemed like we didn't. And we had selected this date hoping that there wasn't any conflict. We did work with the council office, but we know that there are things that come up. Hopefully when there are other community events like the one that I hope didn't happen tonight and on Saturday, letting us know that we were able to promote the meeting also that's coming up, or the survey, and then that way people know how they could continue to stay engaged in this process. So again, we thank you all, and we look forward to showing you the final design when it's ready to go.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your feedback.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.